All right, folks, another pretty active day in the US indexes. Dow up by 1.15%, the S&P up by 1.42%, the Nasdaq up by 2.29%. Gold relatively flat, down 0.49%, and oil up 0.76%. So this is Friday, October 12th, after the trading day. A few of you may have watched my video yesterday. I made some predictions about the S&P 500 and where it was going to go today. I think I got some things right and some things wrong. So I want to talk about that and try to make a prediction again for tomorrow. So I think a few things I got right were, one, I said the bloodletting that had taken place in the last couple days was going to slow down or stop. And I think it's fair to say that happened, of course, with the index bumping up 1.4%. So there was certainly no more bloodletting. I also said that the range of 713 to 730 was going to act as an effective floor. And indeed, we saw, why is that there? Well, let's see if I can get it. 730 was the low of the day, or 729. And it acted as a very effective floor for this market. Prices bounced right off of it. Sort of almost tested it again, set 27.33 a little later in the day, and bounced off of it again. So I got that right. I also speculated that the buyers might come back to this market at these new levels and might try to retake 27.50. So the market certainly did that. Popped up to 27.75, so it retook that. I also said I was predicting sort of sideways motion in trading today, and I think that's where I was partly right and also where I was wrong. So I think in the intraday trading, I think it was quite flat, what was the word I used? Level, I guess. Neither up nor down. It started pretty well, almost exactly where it ended. So, in that sense, the intraday trading was fairly sideways, at least in result. Where I was wrong was where that sideways trading would take place. Just going back to the 5-day here, again, I think even more today's trading, which is here on the right side, is quite accurately described as sideways compared to the day before. So I feel good in having called that. I was wrong in where I thought this sideways motion would be. I was thinking it was going to be a little bit lower in the range, capped by 750, maybe in the range of 730, but that didn't happen. So I think I was wrong there. If you recall, I was not as clear about the direction, though I did speculate the buyers might be coming back in, and I got a few things right, and a few things wrong. So what's going to happen on Monday, the next trading day? I'm always nervous trying to predict what's going to happen on a Monday after a Friday because there's those 2 extra days that the market's got off to think about everything, and people have got more opportunities for strange news to come out and world happenings to occur and all these kinds of things that aren't contemplated today or weren't contemplated today in the market. So I'm always a little uneasy about that. I don't know what's going to happen on the weekend. Maybe some oil refinery is going to shut down, or some world leader is going to say something silly and start a new trade war. Who knows, right? But anyways, I'll give it a shot. Try to see what the market was saying today about these new levels. I think my comments from preceding days are still relevant. That 730 acted as a floor today. I see no evidence in the market that that's going to be discarded necessarily in the coming trading days. I was pointing out previously that that level of 730 acted as as a floor for this market for a very long time, back in May through all of June. That 730 kept acting as an inflection point. There was a lot of interest at that point, and a whole lot of action since then from roughly that level. So, I still see that holding for the coming days, coming trading days. It acted as a floor today. So the question would be, where is this going to end up? And I haven't yet taken a look at this today. In the last few days, I've had a chance to look over these charts before I've made these videos, and I've come to some conclusions and made some observations. So I'm just sort of doing that, right before your ears right now. And so I'm observing 730 did act as a floor. I think that's going to hold in the next coming days. So I don't, if the pessimism returns, I think that'll still form an inflection point. At least so far, the market is not rejecting that inflection point. So we've had a bit of sideways trading after a huge bout of pessimism. Apparently one of the worst. We've had one of the worst openings to a fourth quarter since 2008. 2008. In fact, the worst opening to a fourth quarter since 2008. So that's been a lot of pessimism, right? These last several days. I don't think that's going to go away just because we had one day where the bulls came back to the market. That's probably not realistic. I think there's probably a lot of people who are still nervous about the direction of the market after a 5% drop in a few days. At the same time, there's going to be a lot of people who thought that they missed out on cheap prices over the last few months and are going to see this as a buying opportunity. So I don't know. I guess I'm at a point I don't really know. There was a lot of action off 730, pushed higher highs throughout the day, getting up to 775. So there's a chance the market could have reclaimed 775. The problem with that, just looking back here, is that I don't recall that being a particularly effective floor or inflection point in the past. Certainly over 3 months there, I was just going through. So there was, I was interested in this figure, 774, a couple days ago, back from July 11th. And that was, at the time, a sort of anomalous drop down from what I was saying of a level of more like 2,800. So what to say here? What my sentiment is right now, my view of this sentiment is that buyers are gonna come back, or that they did come back today from yesterday's lows, although it was still sideways a bit. What I think is going to happen next is that the market is going to retest 2,800. I think that's the last major stop, or that's not the right term, the last major floor that I think this market's going to want to reconsider. That was back between July 10th and, well, let's say at least July 30th. That level of 2,800 lasted for a few weeks. That's an important psychological barrier. So I think that's my prediction, that the next day buyers retest 2,800. And of course, there is always the possibility that the bears come back. I mean, there's been no explanation so far of this last couple weeks of trading that have been so pessimistic. So on one hand, I can't point to any headlines really that are driving any more pessimism, but nor could I point to any headlines that were driving that pessimism over the last couple weeks. So that's still quite a mystery point for me, except to have identified that the market was already weak before that and rejecting these previous moves. Obviously, there's that old adage. Oh, I don't know how old it is. There's an adage of don't catch a falling knife. Don't try to catch a falling knife. And certainly the last several days of trading have appeared to have been a falling knife. So, I would urge caution if you were going to try to buy back in. But that's my best guess right now. I think, it could go either way, which is not a particularly useful or helpful thing to say. Where's this going to go? What's the market saying today? Oh, like I said, it's saying 730 is still a strong floor. So I don't think it's going to blow through 730. So I'm going to stick with that. So I'm going to err on the side of not a major sell-off next week, based on that. So that's something. I think that's something I can say, that I'm predicting that the knife will not keep dropping on Monday. That rather the bulls will give this a push back around 75 and try to regain 2,800. So that's my prediction for Monday. It's so many days away, and who knows what's going to happen on the weekend, and people are going to have time for sober second thoughts. Yeah. So longer term than that, you guys know I'm short this market, so you know what I think is going to be happening, but I don't know. Of course, I don't know. If I did, I'd be a billionaire. So I'm also, none of this should be taken as advice. I'm not qualified to give any advice about trading or about stocks. This is strictly a speculative exercise for me to have a personal exercise here and try to guess where the market's going to move and see what I can learn about how it reacts and what I can learn about reading its sentiment. So, final prediction, market does not fall off a cliff on Monday, but tries to retake 2,800. And the interest level at 2,800 will determine whether it stays up there or comes back and treats 2730 as a floor, which I think will last for at least a couple trading days. So we'll see how I do on Monday. Bye.